Can't hear you. Andrea, can you hear me?
Through Zoom. So weird.
No.
If you can hear us, raise your hand.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Miss Caviola, how was trunk or treat? I missed it
Oh.
this year.
So Mary can hear. She raised her hand.
Oh, she can.
So you can hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Barbara raised her. So they can hear us.
Can you hear me?
Can you text her? Yes, confirm. Okay.
Okay, so now we're gonna.
But you can't hear me.
Yes, I got a yes from
Okay.
BFM, so.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
She said, could you hear me when I said something?
No, Mary, you are unmuted, so
Lovely.
can you speak to me?
I'm speaking to you. Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay, hold on, he's hooking up the speaker, Mary.
Now is the time for all good people to
magic.
come to this
Yeah,
beat of their
that corner.
country.
Sort of. And not behind the curtain.
Hello? Oh, mercy.
Mary, can you hear us?
I can always say something, whether you listen or not is a
Not-
different story.
Not on the speaker, though.
Mary?
What?
No,
Can you hear me?
sort of.
Okay.
Okay,
I
good.
don't know.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'll
You're good.
boost my volume,
No, you're good.
Oh, no,
You're good. Don't boost your volume.
chicken.
Ooh. Okay. All right, so we're good.
Mute her now or no? Not mute.
I guess we can leave it. Okay.
Mary, you can mute and unmute yourself, okay?
Lovely. Thank you.
Okay, so back to communication. I have a couple of items here. And the first one is from the Lewisboro Playground Improvement Project. They sent me or dropped off a memo where it says, "Dear Tony Gonsalves, Supervisor, the Lewisboro Town Park Playground Improvement Corp. is pleased to present a check for $140,000 to the town of Lewisboro, New York. These funds were donated by the Lewisboro community members, local businesses, and committee members of LPP. This is the first of two checks intended for the Lewisboro Town Park Playground Project. We look forward to continuing our collaboration with the town of Lewisboro and its Parks and Recreation Department. Regards, Valerie Cancro, President and Project Manager." So thank you very much, Valerie. We are, of course, using those funds to pay for the new playground. So thank you for that. And thanks for all the hard work put into the fundraising, which is still ongoing. So if anyone out there wants to donate, they are still collecting donations. I have another item. This is from Patty Jean. She lives over in Oak Ridge on Fox Run. She asked me to go ahead and read this tonight. Good morning, Miss. And Patty Jean was here at our last meeting when Oak Ridge was on the Smith Ridge Associates was on the agenda. She said, "Good morning, Mr. Gonsalves. Thank you again for sincerely caring about the Oak Ridge Water District situation and arriving early on a weekend morning to observe my plumber changing the filter on the condo water filtration system." This is her own. She has a filter in her unit. Happily for all, the previously observed city black water after filter removal was not observed, and almost clear water with a slight gray tint was noted. And I just want to add that is from the hardness of the water. It was a slight brown actually in the filter itself. After 6 months between filter changes. She goes on to say the flush valves installed in the Oak Ridge building and water closets apparently has resulted in clearer water. When I posted this information on Nextdoor, a neighbor, street not indicated, shared that in June, almost clear water was noted upon her filter change as compared with groundwater during previous filter changes. This bodes well for going forward with the proposed and planned expansion of the Oak Ridge Water District plant. Thank you for expressing your commitment to see this major project through to completion. Have a good day. Patty Jean Jackie, 102 Fox Run. So thank you, Patty Jean, for that. And that's all I have. There's one more item, but I'll save that for pulling of the board. That's an update from, well, actually, I'll do it now while Erica Pierce is here. So this is a New York State DOT. As I think most people probably know, we do have a commitment from the DOT to pave a section of Route 35 between the two Route 121 offsets. So they posted that information on their website. There's a link to it in one of our posts and I think in our email blast. So this is thanks to the hard work locally with the county, with Erica Pierce, with state, both Chris Burdick, our New York Assembly member, and Peter Harcum, a New York State Senator. So we we convinced them that they do need to do something about Route 35. It's not the entire section that we wanted to get paved up to Mead Street, but it is the most important section. And it's basically between where the Ward Pound Ridge section of 121 is and the traffic light in Cross River. So that's about I think it's 0.7 of a mile. So we're looking forward to that work in 2024. They have to engineer it, go out to bid. So it's going to take some time, and that's why it's a 2024 project. So thanks to all involved.
What does the offset term mean?
Offset means 121 hits 35 at the traffic light, and then it continues further west of that towards Ward Pound Ridge and into Pound Ridge. That's what offset means.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how they describe it in their on their website. So it's they describe it as the 121 offset. So that's all I had for communications. Consent agenda, motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of October 11th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So
Motion.
Discussion or second discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Tony, do I get to vote online?
No, you do not. Sorry, Mary, because we didn't adopt the local law, right? So moving on, old business, we had at the last meeting, we had set a public hearing regarding a no through traffic on Schoolhouse Road. So we're going to rescind the setting of that public hearing. And we're not going to be pursuing a no through traffic sign for Schoolhouse Road. It's already a no through commercial. And so I'd like to motion that we go ahead and rescind the public hearing for a no through traffic sign on Schoolhouse Road.
So moved.
We have a second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. New business. I'll turn it over to Erica Pierce, our county legislator. She's going to talk about HEAP, which is the Home Energy Assistance Program.
Ready to turn this on?
If it's off, yeah,
Can't tell.
you can see.
It looks like it is.
There are numbers.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you all of you for letting me come. I've been told I'm on a very short clock tonight, so I'm going to keep it to just a couple of very brief issues. And just one other thing about the Route 35 issue, we put together a whole packet, and LVAC was a critical part of that packet. I think that their testimony of what it was like to have to pull their equipment out on that roadway, as well as to take the passengers, the patients, over that roadway, was a big piece of that, as well as the school district gave us some wear and tear numbers on their vehicles that we also submitted along with that packet. So just proof that when you kind of put all the pieces together and everyone rows together, stuff gets done. So very, very thankful for that. So just a few things I want to talk about tonight, and then I'm going to come back to do a full county update. The first thing I want to address is the new legislation what the county has passed, which has made it easier for seniors and handicapped residents to qualify for reduced property taxes. This was an option that was given out to the counties and to the municipalities throughout New York State on the basis of some laws that were signed by the governor back in the summer. And the county opted to move forward. And because of this, for county taxes for this year, the ceiling for the income that a person can have to qualify for this tax exemption has gone up from $25,000 to $50,000, which does capture a larger number of people. In addition, the county opted to include the ability for those residents to deduct their income by the amount of unreimbursed medical bills that they have had, which really does open the bucket up substantially for our seniors. We've done this intentionally knowing that we have a lot of inflation. We have a lot of stressed financial situations within our senior cohort. I think there was a New York Times article just last week talking about the increase in poverty among seniors in the country. While the rest of us may have ways to better absorb inflation, those living on a fixed income really struggle. So the county wanted to get this done. So the important message is that seniors and handicap residents who want to take advantage of this or any other of the programs that exist for tax abatement must go to your tax assessor office and complete the form. Because we obviously at the county don't know how much money you make, certainly don't know what your unreimbursed medical expenses might be. So you have to go and complete this form in order to get the credit. And so what I don't want is for people to hear about this, get excited, but not realize that they need to complete a form for it to happen. What you as a town board should know, in case you don't already know it, is that at the municipal level, you also have an option of taking up these issues. You can decide to increase the ceiling alone and not include medical expenses. You can do both, like the county did. I mean, you have a much narrower tax basis than the county does. You know your taxpayers well, you know your budget well. So I just encourage you to take a good look at what your options are as a board. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about were related to utility costs. So I think everyone here knows that we had a lot of stress with NYSEG over their billing procedures and the way an awful lot of households really got caught in a bind last winter. So we are coming up on another winter, and we know it's going to be a really rough winter again. And so I am encouraging everyone who is with NYSEG. I mean, everybody up here is with NYSEG, so that's all of our residents. To take a good look at their bill. If they are not locked into to a rate, it may be a good year to take a look at doing that. But even regardless of what you do with that piece, please be aware that if you are on auto pay, you will necessarily have a harder time negotiating a payment plan for your bills. Not going forward, that's not an issue, but for monies that have already disappeared from your account. So last winter, we had residents who would contact us and say, I just had $2,000 taken from my account. I need to get that $2,000 back. I can't afford to lose that $2,000. So if they had a bill for $2,000 and they needed to talk to NYSEG about it, it's one thing if it's not on auto pay. It becomes a whole other thing if it's on auto pay and that money's already left your account. So again, it's going to be a tough winter. I'm encouraging everyone to take a look at what their setup is. I know a lot of folks put their older family members on auto pay because it seems like it's a gift so that they can't be forgetful. This may not be the winter for that. Remember that there are ways to negotiate with NYSEG if you need to for payment plans. There are also programs that will help you pay for the utilities, and that's why I wanted to also speak to you. The HEAP season opens on November 1st. November 1st is just around the corner. So HEAP is a federally funded program run by the county. And so it assists eligible low-income, elderly, and disabled residents with their home heating costs. That is your electric bill, that is your home oil delivery. It can also be repairing your oil burner. Early on in COVID, we had a Lewisboro resident whose oil burner completely failed on them. And through HEAP funds, we were able to get the oil burner replaced, which she would never have been able to do under any other circumstance. This year, in fact, because of the situation, the federal government increased the amount of money in the HEAP program, knowing just how critical the HEAP program is going to be. So I am here to encourage everyone, whether you've qualified in the past, to take a look again at the numbers. We will have people who may not have qualified before, been close to the edge, who will qualify this year. You really want to get in early. There is something also in addition called emergency HEAP. Emergency HEAP are for people who did not sign up through the regular process, but suddenly find themselves with an emergency shutoff notice, or an oil company that's refusing to deliver them oil and their tank is empty. So there is a second backdoor option for folks. If you get into that situation, do not hesitate to contact my office. Pam Veith is also incredibly helpful with these things. She and I have worked together for years on sticky cases with HEAP. So if you're a senior and you already have a relationship with Pam Veith, you can reach out to her, or you can reach out to my office. In either circumstance, we'll help you try to get your application in and find out if you can qualify. Just to give a benchmark, the income levels for a couple. So this is, and it's scale. So if you're one person in a house, it's one rate. If you have 10 people in the house, it's a whole other rate. But for a couple, which is what a lot of our seniors are, if your income is at $3,730 a month or below, you qualify for HEAP. So just to kind of gives everyone an idea of what the benchmark is. So that's really what I wanted to get to you guys today. I know I'm going to come back when you're not having a budgeting session to talk about things in general, but because November 1 is around the corner and this is timely, and because obviously if you want to adopt the tax stuff and so that your residents know that they need to come in and fill out the assessor's form if they want to get the county benefit, all of that is coming up fast. I wanted to make certain to get this information to you. And also just while we're on the topic of utilities, the county has adopted a rule starting December 1 for the next quarter that they will not be charging any tax on utilities. Residents don't need to do anything in order to get the benefit of that. That means that the county tax on the electric bill, on your oil deliveries, all that stuff is going to disappear for the quarter. So no, again, that doesn't require a form. There's no action that anyone needs to take, but just something for folks to be aware of. It's not going to make a huge difference, but it will make some of a difference.
Erica, could you repeat the amount of money that people qualify for that?
That's everybody.
$3,730.
So
No,
the
so the tax.
income, I'm looking for Mary, but of course she's not really here. That's just a speaker. The amount I gave you is the income threshold for a couple
Okay.
to qualify for HEAP. And so what happens then is HEAP works with NYSEG directly. And then they have a whole host of oil companies and oil burner repair companies that they also work with on the oil side of things. Obviously, there's also a natural gas version. So it's not that those are the only options you have. They have arrangements with companies that will then take care of your deliveries and reduce your electric bills and whatnot. So it's done through social services. So they kind of put you into a program.
Thank you.
So you mentioned income eligibility, there's an age eligibility threshold too, or this is
No.
just straight income?
No, yeah. So the program is for low income families, and that's why you can have a household with 8-10 people in it, or seniors or a disabled resident. So anyone basically will qualify. Those are the groups they're trying to get help to, but it's just an income eligibility level. At the county, if you are a senior, if you're over 60 and you have that level, there's a special helping process to get you through the application process. So because the county happens to also have a seniors branch, but other than that, really, it's the same program. That's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Well, thank you.
So-
Thank you, everyone.
We'll have you back to,
Yeah, do
the other
the,
thing.
especially, and the good point is by then we'll know what the county budget is.
right, exactly.
I expect to have that in hand the first week of November.
Okay. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're gonna jump over to the Fox Valley Playground purchase, since Nicole is here. So just to summarize, we've been discussing having a playground over at Fox Valley for some time, and we do have a SAM grant that has some funds allocated for that. And Nicole, in discussion with one of the playground manufacturers, learned of this grant opportunity that expires October 31st.
Correct.
So what she's going to talk about now is what the cost is to us, and yeah, then we'll need to make a decision.
So I received emails that this vendor was offering a grant discount. I took it upon myself to apply. And then the vendor had contacted me, actually the sales rep for our area, scheduled a meeting with Randy and I. We went out to Fox Valley, looked at the area, took some measurements, and he said, we've got to get this processed by the end of this month. You know, you've got to propose what you're looking for, put in basically the purchase to see if we qualify to receive that grant discount. So he sent me the item that fit all of our needs. So this is the only vendor that is specifically meeting our needs. I'm looking for, age appropriate for 2 to 12-year-olds, not just 2 to 5 or 5 to 12, to fit in our space that we have and to meet our price needs, our price requirements. So this specific item came back. He gave me the quote. We got approved as one of many that were nationwide for the discount. And now we have to make a decision because now I have until Friday.
So the grant discount means if you're paying by way of a SAM grant,
The SAM grant does not affect the purchase. So that's how we're paying for it. That is fine. They do not, cross out one or the other. That is the discount that the vendor is giving. And then however we're paying 75% of this order needs to be paid by Friday.
I'm just trying to understand the terminology, grant discount.
Right, so it's not actually a grant. They're calling it a grant discount. It's basically they're offering 35.5% off of an item that is priced $25,000 or more. So
Are they taking that up on the back end through some grant or something?
that I'm not sure. It's the company itself. They are very well known, nationwide. So I guess something that they offer every year. From what the rep had told me.
So it's really, if you spend 25,000 or more, we'll give you a 35% discount.
Right, you have to apply for it and see if if your specific
And you applied
company, I applied and we were approved.
okay. And it is for 2 to 12, because in the description it says 2 to 5 or 5 to 12.
Correct, it is
But
for
it is-
2 to 12.
Okay.
So how much money is left from that SAM grant from 2020?
We have approximately 30,000. And I'll look to Leo, that's about right. After the LBA projects and the ADA trail at the town park.
And how much is the equipment going to cost?
The equipment piece itself is,
Did you get?
I gave
No,
mine
I-
to Craig.
I had it.
It's regularly priced at 30,000 with the 37.5% off comes 11,000 off, but there is a material and surcharge and then a freight. But then the installation on there as well is an additional 10.5, I believe, which does not need to be paid at this point. That is something that would be done when we install in the spring. We have to make the purchase by the end of the week, accept delivery by the end of the year. And then we can install in the spring.
So it looks like and thanks for sending the email
No
earlier.
problem.
So with the equipment purchase, plus the installation cost, plus the ground cover, which you forwarded an email on that, I think we're all in around 39 or 40,000.
Correct.
And so the grant you said is approximately
30,000,
30,000. So
the SAM grant.
so we're taking another 9 or 10 grand out of, I guess, general fund as well for if we're going forward on it.
Correct. Can also be from the ARPA fund, which is really part of our general fund. Yeah. Probably.
Well,
Now, I have one question on the material surcharge. What is that exactly?
What the company charges. I think it comes from basically any playground structure company.
Mhm.
could
material
it
itself.
could it be a recent inflationary, like everybody's adding because steel went up and all this kind of things. I've seen that
That's,
before.
yeah, that's a good question. I could follow up with the rep.
I know we had that with the town park playground. If we didn't place the order by a certain date, there was gonna be, the price was gonna go up essentially.
Right.
And I'm wondering whether that's, if that's
Affected.
negotiable.
This transaction is happening now in this fiscal year. We don't know, is there a possibility that Parks and Rec is gonna end up with a surplus that this doesn't come out of the general fund surplus, that it's just could be a line item transfer? Just curious. I don't know what the end of the year for Parks and Rec looks like.
And you're looking at Leo too.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to have that much of a surplus.
Wouldn't
Yeah,
take, wouldn't
I
take
don't
that
think so.
much, it seems like.
Yeah.
will be better than what was budgeted.
Okay,
If that was your question.
yes. Display. Right. Okay,
So that,
Anything?
that amount of money, 40,000, it could be more than that, not more than that, we don't.
No, I don't, it's not going to be more than that. These prices are locked in through Friday. So we have a deadline of Friday. The installation cost is going to hold at that as long as we process this order. So even though we do it in 2023, they're not going to increase that amount.
Right.
I'm receiving the quote on the engineered wood fiber surface. And like I said, Randy estimates around 2,600. So I would receive that tomorrow. That could come out next year because it wouldn't be delivered till after we install anyways,
So the installation would occur next year?
in the spring,
Okay.
correct?
Did you have a chance to confirm if we have a place for storage over the winter and if there's any costs associated with that?
Randy suggested the barn at Onatru. So that's what I'm going to most likely look into.
But if it's not feasible, where are we putting the stuff? Because we have to pay for it by Friday, and we don't have any place to put it, then. If it doesn't fit, for argument's sake,
Right.
it doesn't fit in the barn.
I mean, it's not going to come together. It's going to come in pieces. So there is a way that we will get this to fit. It's not going to be sitting out.
okay.
I just feel like the past couple times that we voted on things, it's on an emergency basis. And we start talking about ARPA funds, and we haven't sat down to talk about all the projects in the town that could potentially use ARPA funds for things that are pre-existing conditions that have been deteriorating over years. And we attributed approximately 350,000 to the town park playground out of the ARPA funds without looking at the rest of the things that could potentially be on our plate for those funds. We're bringing it up again tonight for, okay, maybe an additional $10,000 without reviewing any other of the potential expenditures that money could be used for. And once again, and not your fault at all, because you just found out about this, not your fault. We're being put in the position of, well, you have to decide to spend this money that we didn't intend on spending by Friday. And, for other towns that have a heck of a lot more income or a greater tax base, we don't. And $10,000 is a lot of money. So, $10,000 could fix something. It could go towards fixing something that's been broken for a long time. There's a lot of things in this town that need to be repaired, and we're in budget season. We're looking at our budget. We have to look towards next year, and again, I love the idea of a playground. It's a nice to have, but it's not a necessity, and it's the equivalent of putting in an in-ground swimming pool so that you can go swimming in the summer, but your roof has a big hole in it. It just, to me, it's not a smart expenditure of money at this moment in time.
I think the park clearly needs a playground. You got a lot of kids running around there, parents that, want this kind of facility that could help them manage their kids while their other kid is in their thing. And this extra 10,000 amounts to $2.50 a household, which again, this kind of an expenditure to me is let's say, progressive expenditure in the economic sense, because it's something that's available for all, and it's minimal on the tax side, and benefit wise, it's a much larger benefit for folks who maybe don't have other options down in that area. So I think it's a big win, and it's just a matter, this is like a timing thing. It'd be nice if it could be all planned out, but this is the opportunity. The best, waiting is not going to make it cheaper, and it's not going to make the need for a facility like this any less. So I'd say, let's go.
We've also been presented to Nicole based things that need to be addressed in the Parks and Rec facilities. I think it's in excess of $1 million actually about things that need to be addressed at the pool and the bathrooms. So
2.7.
Sorry.
$2.7 million.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Mary?
Well, even though I have no vote today, I think that with the fact that we're getting the discount, and if I understand in the email properly, there's no DEC or DEP issues to worry about with this site, I would like to move forward with it.
I didn't hear that last part.
I would like to move forward with it.
I know that we're gonna kick ourselves because there's gonna be some unanticipated expense that comes up, just like the playground at the town park, that we're not anticipating because this is a great deal. I don't dispute it. I just have a feeling that it's gonna come back and it's gonna be another 15,000, another 20,000, because that's just our luck these days. And I hate agreeing to spend money when we don't know today the potential total cost of it. We didn't know that there was gonna need special drainage at the town park. We didn't know about the special fence that was needed at the park. We didn't know all these things until we already bought the equipment. It had to be delivered and, you know, the grant money was received. That playground was supposed to be built without expenditure on the part of the town. And in this case, this money was supposed to be spent without additional expenditure of the town. It was $30,000 or whatever it was in that three-part application for that SAM grant that initially started to be solely for the baseball fields, but that's another argument for another day. And it's already coming in at more than what Mr. Parsons had put in the application for the grant. So
Yeah, I mean, it was never solely for the baseball, so we'll just clarify that point, but the difference between this and the town park is the town park, we did have these PVC that we had to work with. And the stormwater mitigation, something that, yes, we found out after the fact, after we went through the DEC application. Here, there isn't any DEC involvement. And it's, yeah. But I know this is something that has been requested, and again, when Dana was here, it was something that was, she got a lot of feedback from folks who wanted to have a playground, you know, in that park that serves that part of town. What I'm struggling with is the fact that, yes, we're being given a deadline. You know, there is this material surcharge. You know, if we wait a little bit, does the price go up? I know Game Time is who we've been talking to, and I think there have been others that Dana was engaged with, but this is a sole source for this type of playground.
Correct.
So it's not like we can go out to bid for this type of
Correct.
arrangement and the type of equipment.
Right, correct.
Question, is it under the threshold for not going out to bid?
If it's sole source, I'll let Greg.
It's actually just over the threshold, but for those outlined to the board, this is the only vendor that can meet specific specifications that are desired for this playground. So you would have an exemption from Article 5A for a sole source if you would authorize it.
Right.
Does
Probably authorize it and not to exceed amount.
Right.
does the playground?
Yeah.
Would that create any new opportunities for Parks and Rec programming that you can envision?
I think it would definitely draw more people, children to the park. We hold our new neighbor network there. I mean, we can definitely try to hold more events out there as well. In the past, obviously, we've only had ball fields, and a lot of the cooperating agencies utilize those. So it's something that we could.
For Bolton's Bridge.
Right,
Yeah,
correct.
and one of the criticisms I've heard when I had discussions with Dana about this is that parents who were there with their older kids playing, they're playing soccer or baseball, and they have younger siblings that have nothing to do.
Correct.
And with the playground, it would give them something to do.
Right.
And how are the bathrooms over at Fox Valley?
That's a different topic.
But they're not working. They're not usable.
They're usable. That's a different topic. I mean, that's not, it's when you have. Yeah, so when you have people that are going to clog toilets purposely,
Well, that's.
that could happen anywhere.
But there was an
So-
issue with bathrooms and the water there, if I remember correctly.
Because, well,
Ed talked
I
about.
hope can tell you what happened.
Does this include any seating for parents who want to bring their kids over there?
It does not.
But there's a pavilion
There is a pavilion,
with the tables.
correct?
Yeah, but that's not even within, from, if I understand, that's not even within
Within,
eyesight of, if you have a young kid, you're gonna want to be right there with a seat watching your kid. It's a fair distance away, the pavilion, isn't it?
Little of a distance, yes.
Well, I mean, based upon, we're talking 2 to 12 is what the recommendation is. It's too far to, if you have a 2, 3 or 4-year-old, too far away to
So
be
it sounds
watching.
like a future enhancement to me.
a couple
I
tables.
think so.
For a potential fundraiser,
Sure.
Picnic tables.
Sure.
have someone donate money for a bench.
While you're playing with your kid, you stand.
Nicole, are the bathrooms in use over there? Because I believe that there was a problem in the past with bathrooms and water. I just wasn't sure if those.
The bathrooms are usable. They are not in the best condition, but they are usable.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I would like to move that we go ahead. Are we authorizing you to sign or we're just authorizing the procurement?
Authorizing a procurement.
Just you have to sign, like we're authorizing you to sign.
Can-
or-
Can we incorporate like what Andrea is alluding to? Maybe we have a cap up to say
Not to
if it's
exceed.
not to exceed
Well, it's,
40,000, and that would that address what we need to do?
Sure.
I know initially Dana was looking like a 50,000 plus playground. When we first started talking to Game Time and other vendors and. But yeah, 40,000 with this discount.
that includes the
installation.
surface material that we were just talking about.
Surface materials is about 2,600,
Correct.
according to your email.
So that would be included under the $40,000.
40,000. So,
Unless we decide to do wood chips, which.
so I would move that we authorize the expenditure of up to $40,000 for the purchase of the Game Time playground facilities as proposed and the associated ground surface.
Do you want,
material.
so
I would just add as a sole source.
as a sole source, so that's an
Oh,
important
okay.
piece,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, as a sole source supplier as indicated by our Parks and Rec department,
And that would be inclusive of the grant.
inclusive of the grant amount as stated on the presentation. As amended.
Do I have a second?
Can I second it without?
No, you
don't-
can't. You
Yeah.
can't, Mary.
Do anything.
I'll second
I
it.
can second it, yeah.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 No,
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good,
Nicole.
Thank you for working on this.
Okay, so let's jump to the 2023 requested budget. Leo, I'll let you, and I have the files here. So if you want me to start with the larger file with the tabs and I'll put it up on the screen, or you tell me which one.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, and to summarize, so Leo did put together basically the compilation of all the department budgets into his spreadsheet. And basically that equated to an 11.444 tax rate increase to the town tax. And so again, this is the requested budget, which then gets reviewed. And Leo and I will further discuss with department heads, and we're gonna, as we do every year, we're gonna chisel away at it, and then we'll come up with a tentative budget, which then gets presented to the town board by October 30th.
You can-
This week, correct.
Can you just outline the phases and the time frames as to what we need to do at each budgetary phase?
I need a budget, really just a format. It's the supervisor's budget. And that gets presented to the town clerk by the 30th Sunday, so.
Should we put them now?
Put it like this.
Yeah, actually it's wireless, yeah, so if you want to put it here, yeah,
I can stand here, actually.
okay. Let me,
The preliminary budget is middle of November. Time there. that's more important than the tentative, because the preliminary budget, if the board does not approve an adopted budget, then whatever was passed as the preliminary budget will become the adopted budget
By default.
by
essentially.
default.
Okay.
That happened about 12 years ago. And so the preliminary budget is something that you should consider seriously. At this stage, you should just look upon this as a foundation to build upon or to refine. You have 6 or 7 weeks before you need to adopt the budget. That would be December 20th, that you would have to adopt by then. So you have all this time to look at the numbers, talk to the department heads, and come to grips with whether you want to try to stay within the 2% cap, which is actually 2.26, as we talked about. Or
Correct, 2.62.
2.62.
Yeah.
Or based on where inflation is, that might be a difficult task to do. So, but that's what's ahead of you, and the time frame is 6 or 7 weeks. Okay.
And we had been in the habit of usually passing the tax cap legislation as a sort of prophylactic measure.
As a matter of fact, I would
Case.
I would suggest that you ask Greg to put the letter together based on the numbers that are here. It's really just an insurance policy.
Yeah, it's in our back pocket, because otherwise you need the hearing time and all the rest of that.
You can set a public hearing for 21st on it. if you want.
I just have a technical question for Sean. Sean, it's not projecting. I don't know if it's, I mean, it's,
You're not on the computer?
I am on the computer. Oh, I think there it goes. Hold on. There it goes. Okay. Let's stick to. Oh, hold on a second.
That's not.
Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry.
That'd be it. So if you want, you can hit the tab that says tax rate. So as Tony had said, at this point, and again, the majority of this report is the department heads requested numbers. But a large portion of the report is my numbers, which are also not set in stone. The most common raise in here for unrepresented employees is about 5%. Represented employees, we only have one union that is, well, that we think is complete. You guys will be talking about that later tonight. But we have the PBA, which is still not complete. We have the highway union, which we thought was complete. They changed their mind. And now we haven't started discussions with their new Teamsters union. And we also have a new maintenance union, also headed by the Teamsters, and they haven't started yet. So a lot of the numbers in here are incomplete regarding salaries, including the salaries that I put in. They're arbitrary numbers. Tony and I and the rest of you can discuss further, how you want to handle salaries. So that's a number in here. What also is unknown is medical premiums. Because we won't find out what the medical premium is until the beginning of December. If they run the same way they did last year, that's the time frame. However,
Until when? Sorry?
the beginning of December. However, medical premiums, and I may be bouncing around a little bit. Medical premiums, though, this year are running about 7% less than what was budgeted. I didn't change the budgeted numbers for medical premiums because of that. Why? Because I look upon it as having a 7% buffer within the numbers that are already in the budget. So if you look at the budget from last year to this year, you'll see that all the medical numbers are the same.
And the highest we've seen on those kind of increases, I think, I remember you saying it's like 11% or something.
Sure, based on what may happen this year, since the CPI is around 8, and the Social Security numbers increased by about 8. You know, we could certainly be looking at a 7% increase, 8% increase. However, I also thought that the numbers would be worse last year, but they were not. So, you know, we'll see how that is. But again, I think I bounced around. So as we said, these numbers are showing an 11.44 increase in the tax rate. It's generated by, on the bottom of the page, you'll see a number that says 866,000. That's the difference between this year's requested tax versus last year's adopted tax. That comes out to 11.741%. To the right of that is an assessed value that we received from the assessor. The town's assessed value increased by about 786,000. That has a positive impact on the tax rate by about 27 basis points. If you subtract 27 basis points from the 11.741, you'll come close to the 11.444. That's the impact of having an increase to the assessed value of the town, just in the tax rate. It's really just a number because it doesn't impact the taxes that will be charged to the taxpayers, but it just decreases the tax rate purely because of the assessed value of the town increasing. While we're talking about the 8th, let's move to the tax cap then. The top line shows the town tax. Those are the same numbers that were on the prior report, highway and general fund. You go across, the tax levy last year was 7.4 million. The tax base growth factor and the allowable levy growth factor are two numbers that when you multiply them together, as Tony and I spoke about, that really gives you a tax levy increase available to you of 2.6222. You multiply those two numbers, that's what you get. So the 2% tax cap is a misnomer in that regard, because you're really not mandated to stay within 2%. You're mandated to stay within those the result of those two factors. So when you multiply last year's tax levy by those two factors, you get 7.572. We have no available exclusions. So the 2023 tax cap levy limit for the town tax, highway and general fund, is 7.572. We have a proposed tax levy in the requested budget of 8.2 million. So just within the highway and the general fund, we're over the tax cap by 672,000. The tax cap is not just looking at the highway fund, the general fund. It's also taking into account the taxable special districts, and that includes Oak Ridge Sewer, Wild Oaks Lighting, and Wild Oaks Sewer. These districts, the tax levies that are in here could change over the next 6 to 7 weeks as well. I don't think they will, and if they do, it'll just be incrementally. But they are also part of the misnomer 2% tax cap. So you're really over by $674,000. So if you want to stay within the tax cap, you have to find savings of $674,000.
Leo, we have a lot of new residents in town. Maybe you could just take a moment and explain the town tax burden as it relates to the total tax burden of people in our
The
town.
town tax burden is the minor part of your tax burden. The school tax burden is the lion's share. You're paying about 75% of your tax bill goes to the school. About 12% goes to the county. About 5 to 7% goes to the town, and the remainder goes to your fire districts. The town tax is quite small in relation to your total tax bill. If you have a problem with your taxes, talk to your school. Good enough?
Thank you.
I don't know if you really want to go granular right now. So if you want to go to that second report.
Second sheet, okay. Stop share here. Let's see.
And I don't know if you guys have hard copies, if you want them. You got them? You want them?
Yeah, I haven't.
Oh, you do? You do?
Oh, wait,
I printed off myself, so I'm good. Thank you.
I think
You guys have this?
I have. I don't know.
Probably not. Right?
Is that after the granular portion that you referred to?
Well, this is more of a summary.
Thank you.
it's an email, but yeah. That was- I don't need.
What I try to do in this report is just show some of the significant components of the difference between last year's adopted budget's tax and this year's requested budget's tax. And the difference between the two, as we spoke about, is $866,000. These components, and they're not all the components, but they give you a really good snapshot as to where the tax increases are in that large document. So the building department suggested to decrease their revenue, their budgeted revenue by $50,000. So last year we budgeted 600,000. This year he's budgeting 550,000. Right now they're running about $900,000 in revenue. Last year they ran over $1 million. So that's a number that you may want to discuss. Mortgage tax revenue. Last year we budgeted 800,000. Normally I budgeted, but this year the assessor suggested that we think about $650,000, a difference of 150,000. Since the assessor gave me that number, I thought that that number had more credibility than my number. So in this budget, there's a $650,000 mortgage tax estimate. Right now, it looks like, and again, mortgage tax is paid twice a year, once in June, once in mid-December. Unfortunately, the payment in mid-December probably comes when we're already done with the budget. Sometimes that's bitten us, sometimes it hasn't. But right now, it looks like we will be at least matching the 800, probably above the 800. How next year could fall, don't know. While we're talking about that, mortgage tax is a big revenue number. Sales tax is an even bigger number. I didn't change the sales tax number for a few reasons. One reason was I didn't want my thought to influence the impact of the budget, right? So I left it as is. Some of my logic, though, well, you might say, well, heck, next year we could have a recession. So sales tax number could very well be less than what was budgeted this year. Well, right now, sales tax is running about 11% higher, actual 11% higher than what we budgeted. So my thought was, well, if I keep the budgeted number the same, in effect, that's suggesting an 11% decrease in sales tax. Would a recession decrease it more than 11%? I don't know. But that's what you could be looking at. Actual is running about 11% more than budget. I didn't change the budget, so that infers an 11% decrease to what your actual sales tax is this year. Secondly, my thought would be, well, there's inflation. So all the goods you buy will be more costly. All the goods you buy would have a higher tax bill. Maybe that will negate a recession too. These are just my thoughts. Again, you know, they're arguable. Highway department expense. The whole department is up $268,000. That includes a number that I'm not quite sure where it came from. I wasn't privy to his discussion, but he increased road repair and maintenance by $330,000. So I'm not sure if you might remember what his reasoning was. Also, at the time, he did not have in his budget money from CHIPS. So I kept the money from CHIPS as the same as it was last year.
It's usually around 170,000.
$170,000. Now, it really doesn't matter what number is in there because it's the same number on the revenue side as it is on the expense side, right? You have to spend the money on your roads in order to get reimbursed, right? What is good about having a credible number, though, is it helps you figure out how much more money I might need to tax people for the road repair. If I have $400,000 in CHIPS, maybe I don't have to tax people so much for road repair. If I have $100,000 in CHIPS, then that's a different story. Right now, I don't have a number in here other than the 170 on both sides of the ledger. That's the same as last
Do
year.
we expect to get a number?
Should expect to get a number.
Yeah.
I mean, on road paving, the way it should be done is we know the life of a road, we divide by the number of miles of road we have, figure out how many miles we need to do per year. We price that out, and then you subtract your expectation for chips, and what's left is what you have to pay for.
Is that what his presentation was?
No.
Okay. Okay. Second number, and this, pardon the pun, it's like pouring salt in the wound because it bothers me. He has to increase his salt number by $55,000. One reason is because they decreased their salt number at the end of the budget period in order to make room for a new employee.
And that was a decrease of 40,000, right?
40,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
last
decrease
year's
salt
salt budget number was 135.
Yeah.
This year he's asking for 190.
Right.
That's an increase in that line of $55,000. One good thing happened in the highway department. And I remember several years ago when Dan was looking at my bond payoff analysis. And he said, damn, the highway bonds are fully paid off in 2023. Who's ever on the board in 2023 is going to look like a genius. Well, you're on the board. There was a decrease in the highway debt burden of $242,000 because the 2008 highway bond matured in 2022. So even with that benefit, the highway budget is still over $268,000. So going back, the highway union is still not complete. So I'm just estimating what the numbers are. I put a contingency number in of 60,000 to hopefully cover the unknown. And of course, that's an arbitrary number that can be adjusted. On the general fund side, I put 115,000. What's the significance of the combination? Last year, in the general fund, I'll bring you back to last year. You might remember that we still didn't have union agreements. And we put in numbers for salaries that were not what we were thinking their salaries would be. And we put a large amount of money in the contingency account to cover the eventuality of people getting raises. That number was 175,000 in the general fund, which was supposed to take care of the raises in the highway fund as well as the general fund. So now I have a contingency amount of 115 in general and 60 in highway, 175,000. The contingency fund, contingency accounts have no impact on the tax change from one year to the next, because the contingency account is the same number. That was important to me because I didn't want that to influence the number as well. But I think the two numbers, and again, they're arbitrary, but I think it's good to have those two numbers in there. Again, we started to put the contingency account in there 10, 11, 12 years ago to build up the fund balance. And it's been a really good thing to do. Last year, we didn't do it. The contingency account was purely to cover raises. But it's a good practice to still maintain.
What's our current number ballpark as far as that from fund?
Fund balance?
Yeah.
General fund at the end of 2021 was $4 million. And that's a good number.
Good number.
Sorry, what was it? 4 million.
4 million.
Why is that? Because of the pandemic. Because in 2020, we cut our expenses to the bone. And sales tax and mortgage tax blew up.
Mhm.
So we benefited by the pandemic. And that's what happened. Last year, again, we prudently estimated our revenues. We didn't go overboard. Sales tax, mortgage tax. Again, in 2021, sales tax and mortgage tax were excellent. So that's what benefited the fund balance.
You said this is for general fund, is it?
It's 4 million. The highway is about 900 at the end of 2021.
It is. Okay. And the state controllers, sort of guidelines is you want a minimum of 15%.
So the general fund balance is about 47% of 2021's expenditures. That's a great ratio.
So,
Highway is about 27%. So that's an excellent ratio as well.
okay. So
But
that's,
2021 is gone.
mhm,
We're closing up 2022 and we're budgeting 23. So,
mhm.
but you're in a lot better shape than what you were 10 years ago.
From time to time, we've started to talk about, well, some of these capital expenditures should be managed through a capital reserve.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of municipalities are doing that and deriving a lot of stability from that. In fact, Mary and I, right, we were talking to the South Salem Fire Department, and that's been a technique that they've used to manage their equipment purchases and things like that. It seems to me
So maybe I should talk to them. Maybe they could teach me a few things.
I think, I don't know about teaching you, but at least sharing their experience with that as a tool to. And if we are in good shape relative to the main surplus, we could maybe kick that off by just doing a transfer from that into a capital budget to get it kicked off.
Okay.
So, thought.
It's a good discussion.
Yeah, and you're referring to having a capital expense plan.
Yeah, so,
That's
right,
tied
we
to
go
this
with that, and then,
fund.
like Pete, Ripper has talked about doing that for the vehicles.
Right.
And I think it's very prudent because you're not incurring finance costs for
Mhm.
that and it gives you a way to manage your, rather than every vehicle coming up as like, oh gosh, we got a vehicle this year.
I mean, yeah,
Like, how do we fund that? You know, well, we could do this, you know, it's planned out, so. And that, you know, then
so
obviously-
expectations are set, so you're no
Right,
surprises.
based on, again, you know, the
works.
life of these vehicles. And then, you know, we're gonna do that with some of the other capital expenditures as well.
Oh, it was interesting for me to hear the different framework that they use, but I have to say how grateful I am for Leo's framing this whole budget process in a way that we can all understand, and he's a great teacher. So thank you, Leo.
Well, thanks, Mary. Thank you very much.
Well, let's let them finish.
Appreciate
and then
that.
we can see how well we
I-
know.
I just
Um,
had to
but-
get that in because I wasn't sure whether you'd let me talk later on. So.
But yeah, talk to Neil Blum
Okay.
over there.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll bring a lunch. Next number is Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec. Their net expense is $139,000 more than their net expense was last year. So the net expense in the requested budget is $139,000 than what the adopted budget had last year, net expense, right? Because they got a lot of revenue, but they're not covering all of their expenses. So this year is $139,000 more than last year. What was last year's budgeted net cost to the taxpayer? Last year's budgeted net cost is $922,000. That means their expense, $920,000 more than revenue. This year, in their requested budget, it's $1,061,000 net expense to the taxpayer. Got to think about it. They've estimated a revenue increase of $16,000 from one year to the next. But they're estimating an expense increase of $155,000. So they're spending $155,000 more to make $16,000.
16,000.
Does any of the,
Somehow it don't make
is it
sense.
possible any of those things fall into the capital area?
Very,
Because we don't really.
very little in the capital area.
Okay,
That's in this budget. For parking.
So what you're saying is projected expenses are going up by a 10-to-1 ratio over projected revenue increase.
Correct. And here's just one thing to think about. You know, I talked about what we did at the end of the budget season about salt. We also did something with Park and Rec, right? Park and Rec wanted to have another employee. So we increased their revenue to cover that new employee. Well, normally, when you increase a revenue, you have additional expense to generate that revenue. So we never increased the expense side of the ledger. So their revenue number was inflated something higher than what they expected. However, they are already exceeded that revenue number, actual this year.
Wasn't that 1.15?
It was one,
Yeah.
1,229, I think, last year. So they've exceeded the number. But at the end of the year, which is why I had said I don't think they're going to be better than budget, is because they have increased expenses as well. So I think by the end of the year, another 2 months, I will see that their net budget their net actual is worse than their net budget.
so that we were expecting a 922,000 net. And you think it will be worse than that?
Correct. Police. Police are estimating to run $128,000 more in expense than in last year's budget. Last year's adopted budget was $1,198,000. This year's requested budget is $1,527,000. No, I'm sorry, I apologize. Their adopted budget in 2021 was $1,198,000.
2021 or,
2021,
okay,
going back there.
okay.
Their requested budget is $1,527,000 now. Difference of $329,000. So in those 2 years, they've increased by 27% in expense. It's just a fact. The library subsidy, I sent you guys an email on that. They're asking for $46,000 more than they asked for last year. Finance Department, yours truly is asking for, at this stage, within this requested budget, is a dedicated part-time assistant, primarily to take care of payroll. At the end of this process, we may act, when discussions with the supervisor's office, we may be asking for something other than that. And finally, on this report, general fund ban expense increase. The bond expense slightly decreased, but the ban expense went up by $31,000. But we didn't ask for any new money last year. We didn't have additional projects. We actually paid off some of that debt. Why would the expense go up? Expense went up because interest rates increased. Remember, it's kind of like a lag. What's in the 2023 requested budget is debt that we put on in 2022. We make the payment in 23. So what we paid in 22, we put on in 21. So what we're paying off in 23 has a ban rate of 1.63%. What we paid off the prior year had a ban rate of 34 basis points, 120 basis points difference. I am anticipating that when we redo the ban in April, it's going to be 4 to 5%. But that's now. I don't know what I'm talking about. We will be forced to convert everything we have currently in bans into long-term debt by 2025. So they can't stay bans forever, except for, I should rephrase that, except for the Oak Ridge water bans, which of course are not part of this. They're charged to the district.
Mhm.
But they can stay bans for close to another 30 years.
Why is that?
Because water district borrowings are treated differently.
Mhm.
They're not forced to go into long-term debt by New York State funding mandates.
Right.
They could stay
So they could
bans for 40
keep
years.
going for another.
They can be issued for 40 years, and they can stay as a ban for 40 years.
Oh, but that, I mean, that's a strategic thing depending on what you think rates are gonna do.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, if you convert it to a bond, you can't go out for 40 years. You're going to be limited to a 15-year bond.
Mhm.
So just intuitively, one would think that each individual year's expense, paying off principal and
Are we
interest.
paying off principal in the band?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
okay.
What is that ban amount currently?
The total ban is about 800,000.
Okay,
There's 2 bans, so it's about 400 each
okay.
for Oak Ridge Water. For Oak Ridge Water. The ban, the total ban, including the Oak Ridge Water ban that we repriced this past April,
Mhm.
is like 3.2 million.
Okay.
So that's what I had.
Okay. Well, as always, thank you very much. Leo.
So you concur with Mary?
Can you
I do,
confirm?
I do. So
Various comments. Yeah.
Yes. No, this is excellent. Hopefully, gives everyone a good grasp of
I hope
the
so.
process.
I hope so.
Yeah, good, great.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Leo.
Question, is there a way to, would there be any financial benefit in paying off those bands earlier than they're scheduled to?
Let's talk about the Oak Ridge water bans. If you pay them off earlier than scheduled, that's a tax impact to the district. They would have to bear the burden of paying a large amount over a shorter period of time. Is there a benefit? Yeah, maybe over the long term, there's a decrease in the accumulated interest that you would pay. But one of the benefits of having a long-term piece of paper is that people don't stay in their houses for 40 years. Maybe some do, but there's turnover. So you might only stay in your house for 5 years and then you are gone. So for those 5 years, you're paying your piece of that debt. And then the person you sell the house to takes over that. But if you pay it off over 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, then you're, I think putting a burden on the existing homeowners.
But for the town's debt, different story though, potentially. If, for example, you were trading surplus for that. Now if that band debt was at a particularly high interest rate, the taxpayer might have an interest in.
So if you're saying to use the surplus and the fund balance, then yes.
I'm
Then
not
yes.
saying I'm proposing that, but.
No, but that would, then there would be,
Bands went to 8% interest.
then there would be a benefit.
Yeah.
Because there would be no additional tax burden.
Right,
on the
you're not
tax- on the
making that
taxpayer.
on your
Correct,
money sitting there.
correct, correct.
Thanks, Leo.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's all we had for new business. Next, we have approval of claims. Motion to approve claims.
Motion.
We have a second
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pulling of the board? What did you have? Pulling the board, you had, I think you said yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, pulling the board. I'll start with Andrea.
I hope everyone had a beautiful weekend. The weather was gorgeous. I know I had a wonderful weekend with my family. Halloween is this coming weekend. I know that there's gonna be, it's on weekdays, on a school night, right, on Monday. So just ask everyone to be careful, moving around in the dark, hoping for good weather. Hope everyone enjoyed the trunk or treat at Onotru this weekend here. There's plenty of activities going on throughout. I think that there's going to be a Halloween celebration at the Vista Firehouse. I'm sure there's going to be some other goings on at the other locations in town. So happy Halloween. I can't believe Thanksgiving is around the corner. That's it. Also, Tony, I forwarded a request for an Eagle Scout
Oh, yes.
proclamation.
Yeah, I meant to talk to you. That'll be on next meeting.
And you know
November.
that I'm still asking you for the other proclamation for Bill Van
Yeah, we're gonna schedule that.
Okay. That's all I have.
Dan?
Not
I'm
much.
sorry, go Penn State.
Not much. I'd say, we're actually seeing some great color of the leaves this fall, like we haven't seen in a couple of years. So get out to our parks and take a walk around and, Erica came and talked about energy costs, and remember, we have the town electricity program, and the rates are locked in at pretty favorable levels, so you can look at that as one way of shielding yourself from that. And besides that, I think that's it.
We've been losing our leaves earlier.
They've been coming down now,
Yeah, but
but
now
there
they're
was
beautiful.
there's some good color in there, yeah.
Okay, Rich?
Thank you. I'd like to share with the public some of my current thoughts about the Oak Ridge Water District. Following what I believe was our September 27 meeting with a presentation about Oak Ridge customer water use during the first quarter of 2022, as well as complaints about ongoing water quality issues from various Oak Ridge residents, most of whom appear to live in the oldest phase of the development. I had reservations about the claim being made that Oak Ridge Water District daily water use did not exceed the 80,000 gallons per day capacity of the system, at least during the summer drought of 2022. As it turned out, in doing some follow-up research, I learned from a review of Department of Health water monthly operation reports that there were at least 4 days during August of 2022 when the daily use figures contained within these reports exceeded the 80,000 daily capacity of the system. Now, there may be perfectly valid explanations for this, but the figures on the reports are the figures for different days during the summer drought of 2022. With this information, I've mentioned in preliminary conversations with other town board members that an agenda item for an expeditious board discussion take place to address whether or not a public hearing is warranted as a precursor to adopting a local law, which would impose a moratorium on any additional water connections within the Oak Ridge Water District for a period of time. As part of this community discussion, due consideration could also be given to undertaking a facility study for the distribution system at Oak Ridge, as opposed to the water plant itself, meaning pipes going directly into residents' homes off of a water main or mains, to see if any specific issues or patterns could be diagnosed or identified, which match up, you might say, with the type of recurring homeowner complaints which residents have been bringing to our attention. Now, to move the ball forward, with the assistance of our town attorney, I've already circulated a proposed draft local law for everyone's review and consideration, which may or may not be the right way to go on this. As part of the process, however, I wanted to share some of the thoughts and observations which keep coming up in my mind without any definitive resolution over an extended period of time, and which include the following. One, my belief that the overwhelming majority of homeowners and residents in the Oak Ridge Water District are generally satisfied with their water quality. And I've personally spoken with quite a few Oak Ridge homeowners over the past year or so who have told me so. Second, residential complaints appear to have continued to diminish in number and frequency over the last year or so, which I believe directly matches up with the focused and dedicated efforts of our town supervisor to address specific homeowner concerns about their water quality, and which has included many in-person visits to homeowners over the past year, and which have confirmed that the Oak Ridge Water Plant, aside from some issues which have come up from time to time and been promptly rectified, has been doing its job for its customers. And three, those homeowners who have made complaints about the water in their homes have not, at least so far as I'm aware, presented any scientific data, such as independent water testing results from a certified lab, to establish that their individual water is not safe for use in accordance with Westchester County Department of Health requirements and standards. However, with that said, I believe each and every one of the complaints made to us by Oak Ridge residents and take them at face value. That's why I believe we should move forward with this process, first by town board discussion on November 7, and then, if it makes sense to a majority of the board, setting down a public hearing on November 21 for consideration of a moratorium on additional water connections being made in the Oak Ridge Water District for a period of time when a facility study for the distribution system can be considered and possibly implemented. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. I have a couple of items. So first of all, thanks to the Golders Bridge Fire Department for having their Community Day open house this past Saturday. It was a great day for it. And I was there for the early part of it, and I understand it was well attended. So thanks again for throwing in another great community event. After that, I went over to Trunk or Treat over at Honor True, which is another well-attended event and lots of fun. Again, beautiful weather. Lions Club were out with their grill, grilling hot dogs and burgers. So that was a lot of fun to be out there. Third, I have there's some information that was in our email blast from last week regarding NYSEG, and they're switching over to smart meters. So beginning on it's early 2023 and continuing through the fall of 2023, folks will be notified by postcard approximately 3 weeks before the installation, and then an automated phone call. And the benefits of the smart meters is number one, account management. So there's no estimated billing. Energy bills will reflect the actual usage. Energy management, the data provides customers, the actual end user, with usage information so they can better manage consumption and their budgets. And then there's outage management. There's automated communications to NYSEG to improve outage detection, response, and power restoration. There is an open house on Wednesday, October 26th, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Heritage Hills Activity Center, 8 Heritage Hills Drive in Summer. So anyone that's interested in learning more about these smart meters, I would recommend you attend. I'll be there.
And they include, they're bringing people who are sort of billing specialists. So it's not only a presentation about the smart meter stuff, but they got a bank of a couple of people there ready. If you got some questions about your bill, which you just mentioned, some of the issues that had come up, they're ready to actually deal with that as well. So
correct. And the installation of I attended a municipality meeting with NYSEG last week where the CEO spoke, as well as other people who are key contacts within NYSEG, and they they talked about the benefits. The installation of these meters was approved by the PSC, the Public Service Commission, so they did get approval to move forward with this installation. It's being done by other utilities. Con Ed is doing it in parts of Westchester. I think also Westchester already. Already completed. Yeah. So I think this is a good thing. So anyone that has any questions and want to learn the facts about these meters, please attend the meeting on Wednesday. And I think that's all I had. So next, let's see.
Excuse
oh,
me.
what about Mary?
Oh, Mary, sorry, Mary. Pulling in the board, Mary.
Vote, but she can.
I can't vote, but I still have a voice.
Go for it.
For those of you who don't know, today is Diwali. That is celebrated by those who practice Hinduism and Sikhism, as well as a few other people as well. It's a combination of Thanksgiving, the New Year, and Hanukkah. It's a celebration of good over evil. So I wish everyone on this auspicious day of Diwali much success, happiness, and prosperity. I also want to thank the Vista Fire Department and the South Salem Fire Department for hosting their open houses, not this past weekend, the weekend before. Great pancakes, great fun, a great sense of community. Also, there were 55 John Jay High School environmental studies students who worked on the trails on a volunteer basis, and I would like to thank them for that as well. And the library is hosting a trivia night fundraiser at the Horse and Hound on November 1st. Check out the library website for ticket availability.
Thanks, Mary.
Be careful out there. The cold that's going around is awful.
And I thanks, Mary, for your polling. I had one more item that I almost forgot about that was shared with me by the chair of our Veterans Advisory Committee, and this actually was these are notes that were put together by Adam Oakes, who's a Veterans Committee member. So yesterday was the anniversary, 39 years ago. Yesterday, there was the bombing at the Marine Barracks in Beirut, and as a result of that, we had 2 local servicemen who were killed during that bombing. So I just want to take some time to remember United States Marine Corps Corporal James Jakowski of South Salem. And also, United States Marine Corps Corporal. And Jakowski was a graduate of John Jay High School, but there was also United States Marine Corps Corporal Bertie Corcoran of Katona, New York, who was also killed in that event. And yeah, and there's a third that's named here, not local, but United States Marine Corporal Greg L. White of Ossining, New York. He's an Ossining, New York High School alumni. He was also killed in action. So yeah, so there is a memorial at the Vista Fire Department that memorializes Corporal Jakowski, and also on Route 35. So let's not forget these Marines who lost their lives in defense of our country.
May the rest of peace.
And that's all I have. So next meeting is on November 7th at 7:30 p.m. at the Townhouse here on Main Street. And I'd like to motion that we go into executive session to discuss personnel and a union agreement. Second. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.